So as I was saying, heap of containers, all my containers are labelled. This one's clutch, clutch fork. So as I pull the clutch fork apart, all the pins, washers, circlips, nuts, all that will be going into my container. If you're going to clean them up, sandblasting them's awesome. They come up just about brand new if you sandblast them. Wire wheel, again, comes up extremely well. However, I find holding a nut with the wire wheel is sketchy. Nonetheless, it can be done. So here we go. Next we've got Driveshaft, a couple of bolts, wood droop key, 2 wood droop keys. This little rubber seal goes on the back of the self-aligning bearing. Don't lose that. The seal on the shaft, and this is in extremely good condition. However, I will be replacing that with a brass one. I think they look better and they've got a much longer lifespan. And there's our shaft. So obviously it doesn't fit in my container. The bearing inside the bearing housing here, let's remove that. It actually doesn't even spin. It is completely seized. So that will be replaced. There's a couple of ways of getting that out. If you've got a press, you can push it out with your shaft. Just push down on the top of the shaft. I don't have a press. However, this is how I do it. I just get a socket. That fits in the top there nice and snug. I'll get 2 blocks. Place that on either side and just tap that with a hammer, and that bearing, just tap that with a hammer and bearing shall pop out. Like so. So we've got a bit of surface rust in there. I expected that because the bearing was seized. That's alright, we can clean that up. It'll come up nice. The bearing, I'm not sure you can see it, it's all rusted. Doesn't move. It'll get replaced. Righto, so to pull down the drive cork gear, I suppose you can call that. So this is the gear that controls the rear roller. Between these 2 pieces of metal there's a cork. Now that cork, similar to the clutch, that will grab the gear and engage the rear roller when you pull the trigger. So when you pull the trigger, that just squishes this together. As that squishes together, the cork grabs and then starts spinning the smaller gear in here, which in turn spins the rear roller. So to pull this apart, there's actually 2 bearings here. So to pull this apart, there's a shaft in the middle here. Now there's a small pin on this outside gear. Make sure you don't sort of rotate this and snap that off. You snap that off, I have no idea how you'd fix that. So basically all you do, so if you lift that straight up, you've got to line up that little shaft with the keyway and then just pull up the gear. So it shouldn't be very difficult. You can see in there is a little pin sticking through. So that pin needs to line up with that keyway there. There's a bearing here. That seems to be in good condition. I don't think I will replace that bearing. However, if you did need to replace that bearing, it's a matter of pushing it there this way. That'll pop out, the centre part push out the other way, I believe. Well, I don't think it matters which way. The centre part you push out the other way. So if you need to replace that bearing, it is possible, you can do that. I've never replaced it before. I've never needed to. It's always been in quite a good condition. If you just apply some oil before you put it back together, it spins quite easy. So the other half is attached to this steel bracket. Now this steel bracket mounts on the mower, and there's a bearing underneath this rear gear. So between here and here there's a bearing. In the past I've found that this pulls off quite easy. However, if it does not, just pop this up on a couple of blocks and have the steel bracket hanging in the middle, like so. If you get a piece of timber, sit it on top, give that a tap, the bracket should pull out. So you see now the bracket has fallen off the cork drive. This is actually a cork, that's why it's so dirty. There's your bearing. That bearing should pull off this bracket. If you've got a screwdriver or something under there, wedge it up, it should come off. I, again, have never replaced this bearing. I've always found that these two bearings are actually quite good condition. They sealed bearings. Sealed bearings just the quality over the old style, which is the open bearing where you can actually see the ball bearings. A lot of stuff gets in. So again, I don't think I will replace this bearing. It seems alright. It will need some lubricant. That's alright, we can do that. The drive cork, this is a must if you're restoring, replace the cork. So that's glued onto the metal part. And how I get that off is just a small chisel I have. It's an old chisel. It's not very sharp. However, it will work a treat. So there you have it. The chisel just removes the cork. Now this steel is still dirty because that's the glue that was holding the cork on. So before you put a new cork on and glue that on there, you will need to clean that up to basically metal or steel. So that if I was going to do it, I would do it with a wire brush. I just find the ones that you go in the drill be more than enough. You don't want to score into the steel very much. I find the brass wheels, the brass is a softer metal than steel, so it doesn't damage the steel. I'll quickly do that just so you can see. But I recommend not doing that on top of a towel. It's a bad idea. However, you can see the difference. So obviously I've removed the glue here, and that's where the glue is. So if you continue around, get it all looking like that before you glue the new cork on. So the drive gear is now apart. Just pop that aside.